Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Holy Toon, and we're back with another Bible study. Before we get today's Bible study started, I do want to apologize about missing this past Tuesday's Bible study. Honestly, I was going to take a sabbatical leave for a short period of time so I can get my spiritual thoughts together. Since the beginning of the year, I committed to getting deeper into the Bible and reading it regularly. And since I did that and made that announcement to myself, I've been battling a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of spiritual warfare. It's been getting pretty tough lately. And I was going to take that sabbatical leave. And I'm like, you know what? Let me keep on moving forward because that's what the enemy would want, right? The enemy would attack you so you don't continue to preach the word and continue to, uh, follow your goals. This being a very powerful goal, getting into the Bible. So I'm not going to take that sabbatical leave, no matter how much it kills my soul to read this and pretend like everything is all right. We're going to continue moving forward, ladies and gentlemen. So just pray for me, wish for the best. And let's get today's Bible study started. So I know last time when I was reading, I was working on 2 hours of sleep. So I didn't have much sleep. I was extremely tired. Let me prop this up just a little bit better. I was extremely tired last time. I think I remember like dozing off, kind of. I felt like I was slurring my words and whatnot. Also, I had an issue where it was difficult for me to read. So I relocated the camera and I'm going to try to set it up in a way where I can read it a little more comfortably. So hopefully you guys might have to turn your devices sideways in order to follow along. You want to take a look at the pictures, but this allows me to have a closer vantage point. So where we last left off, I believe Joseph was just sold into slavery. It looks like we were at the management crisis. Yeah, he was sold off. He got sent to Egypt. They sold him for money. We went through the management crisis based on Genesis chapter 39, verse 1 through 20. Then we went through the jailhouse shock. And now we are here. So let's continue. All right. Let me back this up just a little bit so y'all can see that page right there. There you go. That's a good view right there. Sorry about that. Just wanted to make sure you guys could at least see. All right, guys, let's get today started. The butler wastes no time having Joseph released from prison. Joseph stands before the Pharaoh of Egypt. I can't, but my God can. Oh, Pharaoh, tell me your dream. Is it true? You can tell the meaning of dreams? I saw 7 fat cows come out of the Nile River. Then I saw 7 skinny cows come and eat up the fat ones. God is warning you that there will be 7 years of good crops followed by 7 years of famine. You should appoint a wise officer to store grain during the 7 good years. Then there will be food for everyone during the 7 years of famine. Who is wiser than you, since God is with you? Pharaoh quickly calls the officers of his court. As they watch, he puts his own ring on Joseph's finger. I have put you in charge of all of Egypt as my second in command. Only I, Pharaoh, will be greater than you. So check this out. He ended up getting sold into slavery, and somehow now he has a high ranking He ended up becoming the Pharaoh's favorite because Joseph had the ability to decipher dreams. That's actually considered one of the gifts of God, being able to distinguish and break down the meaning of dreams. Pharaoh's man. Based on Genesis 41, 44 through 42, 38. In a single moment, Pharaoh elevates Joseph from prisoner to prime minister. From the throne, Joseph goes outside and kneels in prayer, thanking God for his protection and guidance. You have him giving thanks. Joseph orders the people to start preparing for the famine. He becomes famous, and everyone rejoices when he marries the beautiful daughter of the priest of On. I am proud to be your wife, Joseph. You have done so much for our people. That's his wife, that's him. There is still a lot to do. The good years will pass quickly. So he started off from a slave, then he ended up becoming one of the Pharaoh's favorites, and he ended up getting married. Check it out. All too soon, the bad years begin as the famine continues. People come from other countries that have run out of food. Only Egypt, warned by God, has stores of grain. People from every country come to Egypt hoping to buy some of the extra food. One day, tribesmen from Canaan enter Joseph's city. In order to buy grain, they appear before the governor of Egypt. Then, as Joseph dreamed many years before, they bowed down before him. My brothers, they do not recognize me after all these years. So check this out. He was sold off into slavery by his siblings. He ended up becoming one of the greats just because he prophesied and he was able to break down dreams. Now, being able to look at dreams in a prophetic manner is a gift. And you know what's surreal? Me personally, I have dreams that relate to real life often. Often. I'm talking about regularly, which is kind of creepy. That I find out that, people in the Bible had that ability. And it happens to me often where I have dreams and they relate to reality. So much so that I would have to tell someone when I wake up just to have proof that, hey, this is my dream. And if something in real life happens related to the dream, which happens very often, that's why I have to make a habit of telling a human being. And it happens. And it's like, wow, I have that gift in a sense. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, because the enemy can attack you through your dream. And you can find things that relate to reality in the dream world. So you get the pros and the cons from it. Since his brothers don't recognize him, Joseph wants to find out whether they have learned to be kind and merciful in the years since he's seen them. He decides to test them. You are spies. No, my lord, we are 10 sons of the great chieftain Jacob. He sent us to buy grain. 10 sons? How many more sons does your father have? He had 12 sons. The youngest, Benjamin, is home with our father, and the other one died long ago. I still say you are spies. Guards, take them to prison. Why should he think we are spies? So they got incarcerated, as you can see. The Pharaoh doesn't trust them. I don't know, but it was strange that the governor wanted to know how many sons our father had. Hours passed, then days. The brothers tried to understand what happened. Never once do they suspect that their brother Joseph is the governor of Egypt. So remember, they sold their own brothers off, or their own brother off into slavery. They just did it out of hate, spite, jealousy, and they wanted to get money from him. They didn't know that their brother was going to get elevated to governor of Egypt because their brother, made good amends with the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh, like that the brother was able to break down dreams in a prophetic way, right? So What are the odds that God elevated Joseph? I mean, it took time. You know, Joseph was was a slave. You know, God said He was going to free Joseph and Joseph's people, and they were under slavery for 400 years in Egypt. So it might not happen immediately, but it will happen. It's not about our timing, it's about God's timing. On the third day, Joseph calls for the brothers to be brought to him. You may buy grain, but to make sure you are not spies, I will hold one of you in the prison until you bring your youngest brother to me. Me? In prison? This must be punishment for what we did to Joseph long ago. I told you not to hurt him. Has it taken you all these years to regret the evil that you did that day? So they're over there contemplating why they're going through it. They feel like, you know, maybe it's like the get back, maybe it's karma for what they did, right? Simeon is quickly bound and taken back to prison. As a hostage, frightened and eager to leave Egypt, the other brothers hurry to the storehouse to buy grain. Pay me first, then I'll fill your sacks. Their grain sacks filled, the brothers leave Egypt at once. But then they get home, they discover that their sacks are filled not only with grain, but also with all of their money. Why do you have money in your sack, right? And where is Simeon? The whole trip was very strange. The governor said we were spies. We He put us all in prison, then he released everyone except Simeon. Simeon has to stay there until we take Benjamin to Egypt. Take Benjamin to Egypt? Never. I lost Joseph long ago. I'm not about to lose another son. I will not let you take Benjamin. But Father, what about Simeon? Yes, what about Simeon? And what about us? If the grain runs out and we have to go back for more, we can't go without Benjamin. The family uses the grain sparingly, but one day Jacob's hungry tribe has to face the truth. The grain is almost gone. What are we going to do? Bringing Benjamin, based on Genesis 43 through 44. Jacob, the old chieftain, faces a hard decision. But why should the governor of Egypt hold Simeon in prison until he sees Benjamin? What does he want with my youngest son? Not knowing that that's his father. Remember, because he's the father of the 12 boys. Remember, 10 of them went to the Pharaoh, right? And they asked, you know, how many sons do you have? And he said the youngest. They said the youngest passed away, and so on and so on. But he don't even know that his son's the governor of Egypt. But why should the governor of Egypt hold Simeon in prison until he sees Benjamin? What does he want with my youngest son? Nobody knows, Father. But if I don't go, Simeon will die in prison and we will starve. I have to go. Benjamin is right. Then go. But this time, take double the amount of money for grain. Take gifts for the governor, and may God be merciful to us. Days later, Jacob's son leads their pack animals through the gates of the Egyptian city. Don't worry, Benjamin. We'll do everything we can to protect you. I'm not afraid. God will take care of us here, just like he does in our fields or our old fields at home. So they're back at Egypt and they ran out of grain. So the pop sent them with double the money and with some gifts for the governor. But what's interesting is the governor is his son, the son that was sold into slavery. So it's funny how the cookie crumbles. At the brothers' return, Joseph releases Simeon from prison. So Simeon technically is the governor's brother, Joseph, right? Simeon is technically one of Joseph's brothers. So he held his own brother in custody. Then he questions Judah. Is your father well? Yes, Your Excellency. And is your youngest? Oh, I'm sorry. And is this your youngest brother? Yes, this is Benjamin. The sight of his own brother, Benjamin, reminds Joseph of their mother. So this is the brother right here. See where it says the sight of his own brother, Benjamin, reminds Joseph of their mother, who died when Benjamin was born. Suddenly, he cannot face his half brothers, so he turns and leaves the room. Wow. So that's his actual half brother, but it reminds him of his mom because his mom passed away. So he had to walk out of the room because he couldn't take it. The sight of his own brother Benjamin reminds Joseph of their mother, who died when Benjamin was born. Suddenly, he cannot face his half brothers, so he turns and leaves the room. What happened? Alone, Joseph conquers the grief that overcame him. So Joseph's crying. Joseph's sad. And I don't think they still know, like, it's surprising that they don't recognize their brother. Joseph returns to the banquet hall to continue the plan to test his brothers. They are seated and the food is served, but even this is a mystery to them. So check it out. That's the brother. Did you notice we are seated according to age? They're talking amongst each other. I tell you this, man. I tell you, this man knows too much about us. What is he up to? So they still haven't put it together. They haven't put one and one together. You notice how, so that's their brother right here, right? And he has an emotional connection to them because, as you can see, he cries when he looks at the youngest brother. He thinks of his mom. He seats them based on age, and they're like, he knows so much about us. How does he know that much about us? That's because that's their brother. But even as they wonder, the governor has the brother served. He gives the largest portion to Benjamin. This is a sign of great honor. So he has a plate full of fish. Do you see that? I hope that means Benjamin is safe. So they're contemplating, is Benjamin favored because he got a good portion of food? Over here, you have a horse with carriage running. The banquet ends. The next morning, the brothers buy their grain and leave, but they are hardly out of the city before a chariot overtakes them. Stop. One of you has stolen my master's silver cup. Your master's cup? We are innocent. Search us if you want to. If I find the cup, the man whose sack it is hidden in will be punished severely. So he's going to check their sacks. He said, if I find the cup, the man whose sack it is hidden in will be punished severely. One by one, the sacks are searched. At last, the officer opens Benjamin's. The cup. So look it. Remember Benjamin? There goes the cup. I never saw it before. Never. So Benjamin's scared. It's a mistake. I tell you, he didn't steal it. My orders are to bring back the man who had the cup. You there. Get in the chariot. We'll all go back with you, Benjamin. Back in the city, the brothers faced the angry governor of Egypt. Did you think you could steal from me and get away with it? But I will be merciful. The one who had the cup will be my slave. The rest of you can return to your father. If Benjamin doesn't come home, our father will die of grief. Let me be your slave instead of Benjamin. For a moment, there's a silence. Then the governor turns to his guards. Go. Leave me alone with these men. The terrified brothers wait. Finally, Joseph speaks. I can't keep the secret any longer. I am Joseph, your brother. You sold me as a slave many years ago. God has blessed me, and now we are together again. So he finally broke the truth to them. I'm surprised they didn't notice him sooner, because even though he aged, you would think you would still recognize your brother, especially the older ones who were old enough to. Now, I can understand the youngest one, Benjamin, not knowing because Benjamin was probably a baby, him right here. So he basically wanted to keep his brother as a slave, but one of his other brothers offered to stay in replacement of him, but Joseph couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't hold the secret, so he ended up telling the truth. Family reunion based on Genesis 45 through 47. Jacob's sons are shocked to realize that the governor of all of Egypt is actually their long lost brother. Then they remember how they last treated him. Joseph, he must hate us. What will we do now? Look at, they're all shocked. You see the look on their faces? Because they sold their own brother into slavery. And now their brother has a higher ranking than them in Egypt. I believe it was God's will for me to come to Egypt so I can save your lives and the lives of everyone suffering from famine. Wow, that is powerful. That just gave me chills. That gave me chills because sometimes God will put you through hardship and the hardship won't make sense immediately. Sometimes there's a greater cause for your hardship. Sometimes there's a greater cause for your pain. Sometimes there's a greater cause for your slavery. Sometimes there's a greater cause for what you're going through. And it like you can't process it immediately. You don't understand it. You don't know the reasoning behind it. But in Joseph's case, he had to go through slavery. He had to go through all that torment and pain so he can save lives and the lives of everyone suffering from famine. So, there's a saying, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but when you look back, you can make sense of everything. And I know a lot of us can testify to us going through problems in our lives where we went through hardship, we went through emotional abuse, we went through financial difficulties, we went through all sorts of problems and dilemmas, and whether it be work related, education related, family related, just something that didn't make sense. And you went through pain, and at that moment, the pain, it felt unbearable. And you might have asked why me, and why this and why that. But then when you look at it, it makes sense. And in this case, Joseph even acknowledges, I believe it was God's will for me to come to Egypt so I can save your lives and the lives of everyone suffering from famine. So he connected his dots and he looked back and he said, no. I'm not even mad at you guys. I believe it was fate. So sometimes if we don't go through that hardship, we won't reach our full potential and our true destiny. So that's something to take from that small story. We don't deserve God's mercy, Joseph. Can you forgive us? I forgave you all years ago, but I had to be sure you had changed. When you showed your loyalty and love for Benjamin, I knew you had. So check that out. They asked for forgiveness, and he said he forgave them years ago. That goes to show you, he already forgave them. He didn't hold a grudge. He didn't hold hate. He didn't hold anger. He forgave them. But he just wanted to make sure that they were pure hearted. And when the one brother was willing to trade his life for his younger brother, that's when he ended up seeing that they did change. Look, this famine will last 5 more years. Go home and bring our father to be near me. I will provide for you all. Thank God for a brother like you. Check that out. So Benjamin finally found out that that's his brother, and he said, "Bring Pop. Basically, bring Dad, and I'll take care of all you guys." Because now he has a high ranking in Egypt, so he can take care of his own family. That's why it's called the family reunion. As quickly as they can, Joseph's brothers travel to bring their father the good news. Joseph waits impatiently until one day, Excellency, your father and brothers are camped in Goshen. Joseph hurries to his chariot and races towards his father's camp. Father, father, my son, God has answered my prayers. Back in the city, Joseph proudly presents his father to Pharaoh, who gives Jacob the best pasture land in all of Egypt. May God bless you for your kindness to us. Wow. So he got reunited with his father, right? And I can only imagine the feeling right here in this scene. You see this scene when he's on the chariot and he's racing to see his pop? I can only imagine. I can hear the horses. I can hear the horseshoes. I can hear the dust, the wheels on the chariot, the yeah, them snapping the the whips. I can feel his excitement knowing that he's going to see his father, and he hasn't seen his father in forever. And he ends up seeing his father. They have an emotional hug. The father's excited. Father says, "Thank you for answering my prayers." And even the Pharaoh is happy. You can see a smile on the Pharaoh's face. And Jacob's father, or I'm sorry, Joseph, no, Jacob. Yeah, Jacob is the father. Joseph's father, I'm sorry, is so appreciative that he thanks the Pharaoh and says, "May God bless you for your kindness to us." The end of an era, based on Genesis 48 through 50. For 17 years, Jacob and his sons lived happily in Egypt. Then one day a messenger brings sad news to Joseph. "Sir, your father is very ill. He wants you and your sons to come right away." They hurried to Jacob's bedside. "Bring your sons to me so I can bless them before I die." So he's going to pass away and he's going to bless them. But at least the father got a chance to live, in good means for 17 years because of his son. It sucks though. "May God, who has guided me all of my life, bless my grandsons." So right here, he's blessing them. You have the scene where he has both his hands on their heads and he's giving them his blessings. And remember, back then, when you receive blessings via word was good as writing. You know how nowadays we do things in contract? Back then, the word was the contract. Your word was your bond. So because of the wickedness of his older sons, Jacob gives the family birthright to Joseph and his sons. Remembering how he was the youngest, Jacob crosses his arms when he blesses Manasseh and Ephraim. This gives the largest share of the birthright to the younger Ephraim. Then Jacob calls all of his sons to him and blesses them. Jacob dies, and his sons carry the old chieftain's body back to his homeland of Canaan. Wow, that sucks. After Jacob's funeral, Joseph walks away from the camp alone. His brothers watch him in his grief. Even after all these years, Joseph was closest with our father, and we have no way to comfort him. So that goes to show you. So they were jealous in the beginning because Joseph was close to his father or their father. So that's why they sold him off into slavery, right? And despite all the years of separation, when they got reunited and he brought his family to live back with him, he still was the closest. Even after all those years, he was still the closest. So he was grieving the hardest. He was the most hurt. So they noticed it. The brothers caught on to it. "Joseph, you are the head of our tribe now. We will be your slaves if you wish it." No, you did evil, but God used it for good." Wow. I kind of got goosebumps with that. So they wanted to be their brother's slaves because, he's the next in charge. But the brother was forgiving enough to say, no, you did evil, right? You did wrong, but God used your wrong for good. Take a second to process that. Sometimes evil will be done in your life, or you will go through hardship, or you will go through something that's difficult to understand, but it will be used for good. Holy smokes. For years, the sons of Jacob live happily in Egypt. God has been good to us, more than we deserve. As long as I live, I'll thank God and seek his forgiveness. When Joseph is very old, he calls his relatives to see him. God will bring you out of this land to the land he gave to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. When you return, take my body with you. I want to be buried in the land of my fathers. Soon after this, Joseph dies. Wow, man, page by page, people are just passing away. Shucks. And he wanted to be buried back in his homeland too. So that was something that they would do back then. They would carry you back to your homeland and bury you. All of Egypt mourns Joseph's death. But as new rulers come to the throne, they forget how Joseph and his God saved Egypt. They only notice how large the tribe of Hebrews has become. Baby in a basket. Baby in a basket. Based on Exodus 1, chapter 1, 2 to 10. The new Pharaoh in Egypt has forgotten that the Hebrews' ancestor Joseph saved Egypt from the famine. From his royal yacht on the Nile, the kings frown as he watches the Hebrew shepherds with their rich flocks. There are too many Hebrews in Egypt. If we had a war, they might turn against us. I must find a way to keep them from causing trouble. So that's his mind. That's the enemy attacking his mind, making him think that something's going to happen. The enemy will use your mind. The enemy will attack you in your most vulnerable spot, which is your mind. You know, the enemy being Satan, being the opposition, the devil, he will attack your mind. You ever had a thought? You ever had something possess you to just not be yourself or not think the way you normally would think? He likes to use your own thoughts against you. And that's what he's doing right here with this guy. The next day, the king inspects a new building project. We need thousands more workers to get this job done. This sounds like a perfect job for the Hebrews. They will work as slaves. It will save us money, and then those foreigners won't be able to cause trouble. So from daylight to dark, Hebrew men and boys are driven from their homes and forced to work under whip-cracking slave drivers. Look at that. So they're getting whipped. You see them over here? You have the slave drivers whipping them. And I can actually hear the whip crack, which is crazy. But with God's blessing, the Hebrews flourish and grow stronger even under the harsh conditions. So they're still growing. They're still doing good even under the harsh conditions. We work them harder every day, but there are more Hebrews than before. The king will not be happy about this. When Pharaoh hears the report, he calls for the Hebrews' midwives, Shipra and Puah. As you help the Hebrew women give birth, I want you to kill every boy that is born, but let the girls live. Wow. Oh my gosh. So anytime a woman had a boy, I guess because he threatened that, more men would eventually overpower him. But he wanted to keep the women more than likely for breeding purposes. The midwives fear God and do not follow Pharaoh's orders. This is against God. We cannot do this. So they're talking amongst each other. Pharaoh discovers the midwives are not killing the baby boys and becomes angry. Why have you not done what I commanded? The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They give birth before we arrive. God is kind to the midwives and they have families of their own. I tell you that every boy who is born is to be thrown into the Nile River, but every girl shall live. The cruel order is carried out. Hebrews' mothers and fathers risk their lives to protect their sons, but the king's men never give up on their search. Night after night, Amram, a Hebrew from the tribe of Levi, hurries home from work, afraid that the soldiers have visited his home. Oh God, help us keep our new baby boy safe from the Egyptians. So the two midwives, they're going to disobey and they're going to do something that they're not going to follow the earthly orders from the king, right? But it was all with good intent. There's Miriam. The soldiers must not have come. Quickly, Amram enters the house and bolts the door. So everybody's shuffling to protect their kids. Surely God is with us. Our baby is 3 months old and still Pharaoh's soldiers have not found him. They have a little baby right here. 3-month-old little baby boy. God will help me find a way to save our son. The next day, Jochebed prepares a little basket. Keep watch, Miriam. I'm almost finished. So they're preparing a basket to put the little boy in. Then, carefully avoiding the Egyptian soldiers, she takes the basket and her tiny son to the river. His basket will float like a little boat. Keep watch over him, Miriam. Oh, my son, it tears my heart. I'm sorry, it tears my heart to send you away. May God watch over you and protect you. Wow. So this is that story that I've heard since I was a kid when they send them down the river to prevent being slayed. Miriam hides in the bulrushes and watches. The princess, will she see the baby's basket? Look, what a strange little basket. I wonder what's inside of it. The maid brings the basket to the princess, who opens it. A Hebrew baby. Listen to him cry. We have to find someone to feed and care for him. Just then, Miriam steps out of the bushes. Shall I find a Hebrew nurse for the baby? Yes, bring one to me as soon as you can. Mother, come right away. The princess has found our baby, and she wants a Hebrew nurse to take care of him. God has answered my prayer, Miriam. My son will be safe with the princess. At the river's edge, take this baby and care for him. If anyone questions, you send word to me at once. I'm naming him Moses because I pulled him out of the water. So coincidentally, that's their baby, and the baby ended up going with the princess. That goes to show you. So the baby is now named Moses, which is where the story of Moses begins, and now he's safe. Prince on the Run, based on Exodus 2. Hence mass exodus, right? When they were executing all of the little boys. So the Hebrew baby is returned to his own home. Wow, that's crazy how God works. Remember, he wasn't allowed to be home, but somehow he ended up coming back home by the grace of God. But now, under the protection of the king's daughter, that night, Amram and Jochebed gather Moses with his sister, Miriam, and brother, Aaron. They kneel and they pray. There's a little baby and they're praying over the baby. Oh God, we thank you for saving our little son. Help us to train him to serve you. Young Moses lives in his home until he is about 4 years old. Then his mother takes him to the palace to live with the princess who adopts him. Years pass, and the boy Moses lives the life of a young prince in Pharaoh's palace. One day he drives through the city. Man, time flies by fast. You know how they say kids grow up fast? He went from being a little boy to now he's driving a chariot on his own. To a place where Hebrew slaves are working. As he watches the slaves toil, he is startled by a man's scream. So this is him, and there's a man that looks like getting whipped over here in this scene. Moses jumps from his chariot to investigate and find an Egyptian guard beating a Hebrew slave. So this is Moses. He's running off of his chariot because he don't like what he sees. And this is the slave runner whipping a slave. In sudden anger, Moses strikes out hard. Yo, Moses socked him. I don't got the energy in me to laugh, guys. Oh my gosh. He socked him though. I'm sorry, man. Sometimes we all need a good laugh. When we're all battling spiritual demons, we need a good laugh. It's good to laugh. Laughing is contagious. Try smiling. Try laughing. Look, he killed the guard. Yo, he socked him to death. Yo, look at it. Somebody noticed it. Look, he killed the guard. Yo, he socked him. That was a super punch. The next day, Moses returns. When he sees two Hebrews fighting, he tries to stop them. Don't fight each other, idiots. Who made you a judge over us? Are you going to kill me the way you killed that Egyptian? People know I have killed a man. There's only one thing I can do, and I have to do it now. Later that day in the palace, Prince Moses killed an Egyptian guard for beating a Hebrew slave. Find the traitor and kill him. But Pharaoh's orders come too late. Moses has a head start on the soldiers who chased him. He escapes, and after a long, hard ride, he reaches the land of Midian. Moses flees to Midian. So he goes from Egypt, right? He goes from Egypt all the way to Midian. Wow. So he rebelled, and for doing what he thought was right, he ended up being called a traitor. Isn't that called committing treason? I think. I could be wrong, but that's called committing treason when you like trade on your own, group of people, team, country, and things of that nature. Please excuse me while I take a sip of water. Tired after his flight from Pharaoh Tired after his flight from Pharaoh, Moses rests by a well. Get away from here until we water our sheep. No, we were here first. You leave us alone. I think you should let the women go first. After all, that's the civilized thing to do. The cowardly shepherds retreat, and Moses helps the women water their flocks. When the women return to their camp, one of them tells her father what happened at the well. A man saved you, and you came straight home? Why didn't any of you ask him to dinner? Yo, the father said, a man saved you. Why didn't you invite him home? Nowadays, that definitely won't happen. I am Zipporah. My father, Jethro, invites you to eat. Moses accepts the invitation, and that night after supper, I need a shepherd, a good man I can trust. Why don't you stay with us? Thank you, I will. This will be a good place to hide from Pharaoh. A burning bush, based on Exodus chapter 2, verse 21 through 4 and 17. Gershom handles his sling very well. He'll make a good shepherd like his father. Moses stays weeks and then months. He marries Zipporah and they have 2 sons. Moses works as a shepherd for his father-in-law. For 40 years after Moses works as a shepherd for his father-in-law for 40 years. Year after year, the flocks of Jethro increase. But one year, the grasses dry up and Moses leads his sheep to pastures near the mountain of Sinai, which is Mount Sinai. This is him leading the sheep. But even after all these years, Moses cannot forget the Hebrew people in Egypt. I wonder if Pharaoh is still alive and what has become of my sister, Miriam, and my brother, Aaron. Moses wonders too about the Hebrew slaves still struggling under the whips of the Egyptian rulers. One day, he looks up to see a strange sight on Mount Sinai. A bush on fire, yet no one is burning up. I'm sorry. A bush on fire, yet it's not burning up. Starting to get visually fatigued. He steps closer and then stops. A voice from the fiery bush calls out, Moses. I'm here. Once again, Moses starts towards the bush, but the same voice warns him. Don't come any nearer. Take off your shoes because you are standing on holy ground. So he takes off his flip-flops, or his shoes, I should say. I am God. I am the God of your father and the God of your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses hides his face in fear at being addressed by the one true God. I have seen my people suffer in Egypt, and I have come down to save them. I want you to bring them out of that land. Then you will lead them to a new home, a land flowing with milk, honey. I'm sorry, milk and honey. I had to swallow my saliva. I apologize. Now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh. So we're gonna take a minute just to pause and take in what's happening right now. So he went to he went to Mount Sinai where he saw a burning bush. No one was near the burning bush. So he went to the bush and he heard a voice, and the voice spoke to him and said that I am God, I'm the God of your father, I'm the God of your ancestors. Take off your shoes, you're on holy ground. So mind you, he's hearing this voice, he's hearing this higher authority in a burning bush. So what's interesting, which man, I would love to go through an experience like that. Like honestly, me personally, I would truly love to experience something that surreal. Nowadays, I don't know. I think it's due to technology and due to just like our thoughts. I don't know about your thoughts, but my thoughts, like sometimes it's hard to discern, to use discernment of like the voices that I'm hearing in my head. Are they of God? The signs that I'm getting of this world, are they of God? Because right now, I don't see a burning bush telling me things. I don't have, like I aspire to experience something like that where it would give me clear guidance. But sometimes God's not going to give you the clear guidance you want. You might not get a sign today. You might not get a sign tomorrow. You might get a sign next week. You might get a sign next month. Nowadays, God, he might not speak to you via bush, but he might speak to you via coworker at work. He might speak to you via family member. You might get a call. You might see a commercial. You might hear a song. See, and that's the thing that I don't know, because it's like back then they didn't have the internet. Back then they didn't have TV. Back then they didn't have music. They didn't have the type of things that we take as signs today. Like you might be going through something, right? And you say, God, give me a sign. And then you're driving on the highway, right? And you see a billboard, and that billboard is relative to what you're going through. And you're like, oh my gosh, thanks for that sign. You might think that's a sign. But back then they didn't have billboards. Back then they didn't have those type of things where they can relate them. This is a straight up sign. This is a voice. This is a burning bush. This is like some next level stuff, right? This is it's almost like it's like it's crazy. A burning bush is talking to you. Take that in, right? Nowadays, we see a clip from not, I don't know if you feel this way. Sometimes I see a clip from a movie or I see a clip from a show, and I'd be like, that's a sign. But it may not necessarily be a sign, right? Because it's just a clip from a show. Like whether you watch that show or not, that script was written by somebody, and it was gonna, it was gonna air whether you saw the sign or not. So I'm just intrigued by signs like this, and I would love to get these type of signs. Now, I'm not gonna say that I didn't get some pretty surreal signs. I got some fairly interesting signs in my lifetime. I got my prayers answered in weird and surreal ways. But this right here is some next level stuff. Who am I to speak to Pharaoh of Egypt? Who am I to lead the Hebrews? I am not a leader. I am your leader, and I am with you. Believe me that you and the Israelites will come to worship me on this very mountain. That's God speaking. I am not a prophet or a priest. What if they ask me your name? I am who I am, and I will perform my wonders against the Egyptians. You see? So he's literally having this audible conversation with God. Now, how many of you guys would love to have an audible conversation with God? Right now, guys, with what I'm battling in my life, I would love an audible conversation with God. I'm a social creature. So I, desire to get that social audible tone back, but he's not going to talk to us. Not always. Some people are blessed enough to hear the voice of God, right? Some people say it's an audible voice. Some people say it's a thought, right? But I've never experienced the audible voice. How many of you have experienced an audible voice? What if they don't believe me? Throw your staff on the ground. Moses' staff immediately turns into a venomous snake. He runs in terror. Check it out, you see? So this is where the staff comes into play, because I believe Moses parts the waters coming up soon. God calls Moses to come back. Then he tells Moses to pick up the snake. Trembling at the power of God, Moses obeys. So Moses picks up the snake. The Lord has given Moses the power to do this miracle, and two others, so he can make the people believe. Still, Moses is afraid. I am not a good speaker. I can't do this job. But God is tired of Moses' excuses. I made your mouth, didn't I? I can make you speak with it. Wow. Wow, that's hard for me to take in. Side note, guys, that's hard for me to take in. So I'm gonna give I'm gonna give a little testimony, right? So you guys know, or if you don't know, I've always stuttered since I was a kid. I have a pretty tough speech impediment. Somehow when I go live or when I pre-record videos, I'm better at controlling my stuttering than other times. Some of those pre-recorded videos, you guys don't know, it might take me several tries, 10 tries, 15 tries to get a pretty fluid session without stuttering. I still stutter. Even though I do a pretty good job of maintaining it, I still stutter, right? So today I did a faith-filled motivational speech. I just uploaded it to this channel a few hours ago. So if you'll see it, you'll see I give like a little inspiring speech. And I had a bunch of energy in me, because what I'm facing and what I'm battling, and I believe that I want to use this all to my testimony. So I normally expect for it to be a complicated speech. I expected it for me to be one of those things where I take 7 attempts, 10 attempts, 20 attempts, right? To try to get it right, right? But in all honesty to God, I put it in God's hands. And I did it honestly in the second attempt, because in the first attempt, I think like 5 words in, I kind of messed up. And I'm like, oh, come on, God, please give me the power to do this. You put all these emotions in my heart. You led me to this very day. Use me as a tool. Use me, right? And I've always been told I have the gift of gab, which is the ability to speak. How ironically a person who stutters, right, has the ability to speak. I have a pretty fair use of my mouth, right? And right here he says, I made your mouth, didn't I? I can make you speak with it too, but very well. Wow. So I was able to record that little motivational, spiritual, uplifting clip that I did, 3 minutes and 33 seconds, something like that, a few hours ago, with ease, no cuts, no edits. And I just spoke fluidly. I believe, you guys don't think I'm crazy, I believe during times like that, the Holy Spirit speaks through me and uses me as a tool. Sorry, guys. There's times when, I would stand in front of a class and I would speak. And it's like I said, in my personal life, I stutter. But something overcomes me. Something enters my body when I'm speaking to the masses. And it's not me. So this is pretty crazy. Who knew, right? A kid who would have a really bad speech disability, would one day freaking have a phenomenal voice. Only God knew, right? But very well. I am sending your brother Aaron to speak. I'm sorry. I skipped the next line. I am sending your brother Aaron to meet you. I will help you both speak. Now go. You see, he will help you speak. So in my little situation earlier, he helped me speak, bro. Like, I very rarely am I able to execute one of those motivational speeches like first try. Like on the best attempt, I'll get it like in several tries. you know, because I'm kind of like obsessive with trying to get like a pretty clean edit, you know, pretty clean cut. And I would love to not use edits, but that one I did earlier was one flawless run through, which was pretty cool, man. Thank God, amen, for allowing me to do that and giving me that ability. Meantime, in the slave huts of Egypt, the Hebrews are crying out to God to help them. Spokesman for God, based on Exodus chapter 4, verse 27 through 7 through 11. While Aaron, the brother of Moses, is praying, God speaks to him. Go into the wilderness to meet Moses. You see that audible voice? Oh my gosh, that audible voice. How can I tap into that audible voice? Because like